Welcome to the Luminary podcast. I'll be your host. My name is Annie Perry. I am a professional, multidimensional psychic channel, a conduit of light, and the really crystallized mission that has come up for me the past couple of months. Most of you know I've been healing from really serious physical illness, and thank you so much for all of your kind messages and love and support. It hasn't been all bad, as they say. It hasn't been all bad because what I was just thinking about as I was getting ready to record this episode specifically as we start to look forward to, the Ascension Trajectory and what is coming in the future, where we are at in the Ascension Trajectory, and what you can start to expect, right? So we're really leaving this old phase of, looking back, looking at our childhoods, looking at our teen years, doing all of the healing work and the shadow work and the inner work and all of that had to be done to refine us and to drop density so that we can go through this ascent. Most of you have spent so many years, like myself. I spent 5.5 years doing all of that inner work and all of that refinement and learning and remembering who we are and channeling and starting to come into some of your soul cosmic memory. Now coming out of that illness, which was really like the last big boss, the last big boss of that level in my own journey in life. So just that level, face the big boss of that. And what's really come out of it is this clarity and this sharpness around my mission and this understanding that I am here for this next phase of my life and my work and our ascension to really start channeling about the new earth. It has always been there in the background. You guys have heard me talk about it. Obviously, I've always known this is what we are creating. It's here, it's now. It's just so subtle that most of us can't really feel it or latch onto it yet, but it is happening. It's becoming more and more clear and more apparent every single day. And that crystal clear sharpness in my mission really came forward out of the shadow of this illness. And it was like, you are a new earth mentor. You are here to channel about the new earth. You are going to give them all of this information, all of this codes now in this new chapter that I'm just, getting into in my own work and the content that I am producing and creating for all of you guys, which is how I transmit the codes. That's how everything gets out there. It's this awareness and understanding, now they are ready. Now is the time. Before, it was all about looking at the past and recreating yourself, dropping density, doing all of that inner work. There was a lot of the unknown. There was a lot of anxiety about the future. And now I have this clear message coming through from all of my guides, all of the ascended masters that I channel, all of the planetary consciousnesses that I channel, all of the angelics and Elohim that I channel, all of the galactics, which is our next step in ascension, becoming the Galactic Gaian, all of the galactics. I feel this readiness for these new earth codes. They're like, now you guys are ready to know what's coming next. You're ready to know what life is going to be like on the planet, what everyday life is going to be like. You're ready to know what your relationships are going to be like, what your work is going to be like, what your politics and your economy and governments are going to be like, what your countries are going to be like. You guys are ready to start knowing what is coming next. And it's really exciting. There's definitely this sort of catching my breath moment of oh, wow, this is really big that these codes and this information wants to come through, because previously in the 5.5 years that I have been working with my guides and awakening and channeling and really, I'm that person that always wants to know what's coming next. I always want to know. I want to know what's coming down the pipeline. There really wasn't a level of clarity that they were willing to give or to share with me at that time. It was always very, very vague. But now I am feeling more than ever that we are calibrated into this new timeline, which I talked about on the episode, The Prelude. We are calibrated into this new timeline. And it's like, you guys are ready. You're at that spiritual and emotional awareness and maturity level that you need to be to receive this kind of clear, detailed information about what life is going to be like on the new earth, what it is that you are literally creating in the future of the timeline that you are on. So it's not just coming from all of these ascended beings, it's really coming from your future self. Your future self is like, okay, you have passed through so many gateways and you have ascended into so many higher timelines and you've dropped so much density. Now you are ready for this kind of information. You can mentally, emotionally, and spiritually handle knowing what is coming down the pipeline. That's a very big deal. So if you are here listening to this episode, that is you. You are ready for this kind of information. And I wanted to start there because I think that many of you can feel a slight tone shift in my last couple of podcast episodes since I had taken some time off to handle this illness and start to heal and get my body in a totally new place. I'm in a new body. I don't know if I've mentioned that yet. I probably won't until I do some episodes about the actual diagnosis and illness and, the journey that I'm on with that, which of course, the day that I got the diagnosis, my guides are like, this has everything to do with the new earth. It has everything to do with crystalline DNA. It has everything to do with us doing these case studies on these specific commanders that were sent down to the planet and understanding what is needed and necessary for humans to convert carbon to crystalline DNA so that they can exist in their body of light. That is the new earth body. And just for even further clarification, while I was coming out of being really, really ill and starting to be able to sit up again and starting to be able to type and to look at a screen for more than a couple of minutes, I told my guides I want to channel every single day. I love it. I have missed it. I can't live my life without it. It is my favorite hobby. It's one of my favorite things to do. I don't do it because I think of it as work. I do know that it is work, but to me, it's not work in the sense that other people think of work. To me, it is a hobby that it also gets to be my work. And as I started channeling, all of these transmissions around the new earth started to come through very, very strongly. And I immediately knew that this needed to be a book. It needed to go into a book. It needed to be a whole activation and transmission that people could read and highlight and take notes and go back to and reread. So there is a book coming. And of course, you guys will be the first to know about it. It is already in the early stages of drafting. But what's very interesting is my guides actually had me sit down and design the cover art. And I love designing things. I think I'm pretty good at it. I posted the first drafts of the cover art on my Instagram stories, and you guys were like, that looks amazing. It's so you. It's screaming New Earth. Screaming New Earth and Ascension. And, it's got those gold codes, those gold diamond crystalline codes. So I was channeling what was going to go on the cover and what the title and the subtitle would be. And I knew very instantly that it was Awakening in the New Earth. Like that was the title. And then the subtitle was going to be Channeled Messages. And I originally put For the New Earth Souls. And my guides were like, excuse us, excuse us. Everyone has 8 blue Arcturians talking to them at all times. What, don't you guys have that? So they were like, it actually should say For the New Earth Architects. And this is when everything started to get more and more and more and more and more clear about the refinement process that I've been on over this last year that has been my own mastery journey. And also all of you guys that have been finding me this year, coming into the community, being activated. And I just knew very, very clearly that this next chapter was about me being that new earth mentor, focusing on the new earth, focusing on the future, focusing on what's coming ahead, and being that mentor to the new earth architects, that you guys are the ones who are creating this new earth. Whether you have full understanding of what that's going to look like for you right now or not, I promise you that if you're in the or not stage, if you're in the or not group, it is coming, and it is coming in hot, and it is going to come in crystal clear. Your missions are going to start crystallizing very, very quickly. Whether you listen to this in the future, that's the exact right time for you to listen to it. Whether you listen to it the day that it comes out, that's the exact right time for you to listen to it. You are always getting this channeled information from your higher self, from your higher frequencies, at the exact moment that is right and perfect for you. And when I say perfect, most of you guys already know this, I don't mean perfect in the 3D sense, as in makes sense to the mind. I mean perfect as in divine perfection. Probably makes no sense to the mind until the mind is looking at it in hindsight. Then the mind is able to assimilate and understand all of the puzzle pieces that had to be put in place the way that they were put in place. So it's really, really exciting for me to kind of make this announcement, like, this is the direction we're going in. This is what you can expect in all of the content that I have been channeling. I have channeled posts every day on Instagram. You can find me at eternal_Annie. Lots of channel posts about the new earth. Many of them are direct excerpts from the book that is coming, that I'm channeling right now. I have been doing also some really fun like tarot card pulls and light code card pulls, just to give you guys that really daily, timely, in the moment support and message that you might need to hear right then, right there. Just, less than 60 seconds. This is what your soul is trying to say to you about today. This is what your soul is trying to communicate to you about today. If you see it, it's meant for you. If you didn't see it, don't worry about it. And the other thing that's really been coming through for me this week and getting clearer and clearer and clearer is how I want to use the YouTube channel and the new kinds of content that I want to create on there. Previously, you could do voiceover and you could put some stock video and you could kind of send that out to the world, especially for podcasters who don't use video, who don't record themselves on video while we are podcasting. It was a really great way to just continue getting the podcast out there to newer and newer people. However, YouTube is no longer going to be promoting those kinds of videos in an effort to combat AI and work that is not really original. A lot of people are using AI to create these voiceovers and these big monologues that, especially in the spiritual industry, I have seen so many of them. Neville Goddard, just totally fake videos and fake essays and fake monologues, things that he never said. It was like, one of them was like Dr. Joe Dispenza. It was like the power of the woman who lives alone. And it had so many views. I was just like, you guys, Dr. Joe Dispenza never said this. I know his work so well. He never said that. And he is a great team though. So I'm sure that they'll be doing the work they need to get those taken down. So on one hand, I totally understand and appreciate it. And on the other hand, I was one of those actual, real, authentic creators creating content that way. So my guides and I have been working and collaborating together to come up with new video content that we're going to be posting on there that's going to be very different from anything that I have ever done before. And I'm very, very excited. So you can find the YouTube channel at Wellspring Official. Wellspring Official is also the name of my business and my website, where you can find all of the activations, the courses, the master classes, the portals, and easily the most important thing that I have ever created, which is Ascension Academy. If you are like, I know when you say New Earth Architect that is me, I don't really understand it. I don't know what it means for me. I don't know what it is that I'm going to actually be doing. Ascension Academy is the place for you. That is where you get the soul cosmic memory back. That's where you get all of the activation, the awareness. You learn how to channel, you learn how to use your psychic gifts, you activate your psychic flames, your blue flame and your violet flame, and you step out into the quantum field and you learn how to manifest and create in your reality and master energetics. And I will be teaching an entire course on gridwork and energetic mastery in the astral realm and other areas of the quantum field. That's the place. That's the spot. Ascension Academy. It's only going to be getting bigger and better. And Ascension Academy was really the first thing that came to me when I came back from my trip abroad. And it was like, you are the creator of Ascension Academy. It's my future self usually talking to me, being so direct and saying, you are the creator of this. You are this. You are the New Earth mentor to the New Earth architects. Like, hurrah. And it is very, very exciting. So you can find out how to join courses and get master classes and get activations and all of that on wellspringofficial.com. And if you are an Instagram user, please come hang out with me every day on Eternal Annie. It literally in the title, it says New Earth Mentor, Lightbringer. Like, I have put all the flags out. You can't miss it. And I'm there teaching on stories every single day, as I have done 5.5 years. 5.5 years. I was teaching on Instagram stories, spiritual stuff, when I was like a day into my spiritual awakening. I was like, guys, you'll never guess what happened yesterday. Let me tell you all about it. And this and this and this is all the lessons. I mean, I was just, from the moment my spiritual awakening started, I was that teacher, and I hope I always get to be, but we'll see. We'll see what's coming down the pipeline. So what you can expect in these new episodes and in this kind of new tone and vibration that I am in is a lot of this New Earth content, and that means that you are ready to receive it. I do want to do a brief gridwork update before we get into talking about the Ascent and where we are exactly in the Ascension trajectory as far as humanity, the collective, the earth, and what we can expect in some of the coming years. So in the last 2 episodes, the prelude and a mastery of light, I talk a lot about the grid work that I did all over Europe, that I have been doing all over the planet from wherever it is that I am, as well as what exactly it means to be doing this grid work in the astral realm. So some of the updates that I have for you guys that have already listened to those, you might be curious, how is it going? Here is what I have done this week. This is the 2nd week of October. The day after I recorded the episode, A Mastery of Light, I was able to get the Vatican's negative astral realm construct to surrender 40% of its density to me. That was huge. If you listen to the episode of Mastery of Light, I talked about how the Vatican absolutely just handed me my ass when I started to do grid work around it and throughout Italy. It was very, very resistant to the density being released and alchemized. And after I did that episode, I got so much pushback from it in the astral realm that I just marched up to it in my astral body and said, I do not give a fuck what you think or how upset you are that I'm telling the world about this. The episode is going out. I'm going to tell it like it is. I'm going to tell it how I experienced it. And you can either get on board or get the fuck off of this planet. And boy, oh boy, when you really show up in your astral light body, a type of light body, not the light body, but a type of light body. When you show up in your astral light body and you bring with you, because I always bring my big friends with me. I always bring like 4 archangel consciousnesses with me, which is like most of our entire universe. Bring them with me. And they're all about the alchemization of density, especially Ariel, who is one of the main archangels overseeing the ascension here on Earth. And I am one of their embodiments. But boy, oh boy, when you show up with your big friends, the Vatican was like, fine, you can have 40% right here, right now. I feel like we were like doing a deal. We were doing a deal. They were like 40% now. And I was like, fine, I'll take it. and do not fuck with me while I clear the rest of Italy. And it didn't. It backed off, and I was able to clear in one evening the entire country of Italy, all that is considered a part of that country today in this time and space. Is just an easy way for me to divvy up the land masses and to serve those populations. All of the density was cleared out and turned to 0 point, and I returned all of it back into the earth to serve the people of Italy for their love, happiness, prosperity for the years to come. So that was a huge win, and I look forward to getting the rest of it fully surrendered. But we're going to be seeing a lot of changes when it comes to that Vatican energy. And it's not so much when we're talking about religious organizations that we just, want them to light on fire, and we don't want them to, the people working in them, to be hurt, because that would be a violation of their free will, and that would create karma for us as grid workers. That's not our intention. Our intention is to get the density, to zero it out, and to return it back to the people who live in those areas, so that they can wake up tomorrow morning and feel free and feel clear and feel happy and feel like there's possibilities and experience prosperity and joy and alignment in their lives. What I foresee with these religious institutions in the future is that many of them will do what they originally were supposed to do, which was to serve the poor, to serve the needy, to be nonprofits, to help and to house and to clothe the homeless, to really be that service-based nonprofit organization that many of them say that they are, but only a very small percentage of them actually do that. Most of them operate like businesses, except they don't have to pay the taxes that a regular business has to pay. And as someone who was religious for 27 years of her life, I feel very comfortable and confident in saying that, because I was in that world for a very, very long time, and I know how they operate. So that's exciting news. I do plan on going back for the rest of the 60% and returning that also to the people of Italy for their future. Other work that I have done this week, let's start with Hurricane Priscilla. That was a hurricane that I mistakenly thought was actually in the Atlantic, where hurricanes normally are, and it was actually in the Pacific. So I did have to redo that one because I was directing the energy towards the wrong part of the planet. Whoops. And that went from being a hurricane down to a tropical storm. So the energy that I put in that was calm energy. And now it's just going to be a nice rain shower for the southwest of the United States and a little bit of the northwest of Mexico. Immigration, abuse of free will in the United States. I have been working on that. I am hoping to see something very soon, some movement there. Afghanistan free will violations against women. Again, that is actually something I did at the end of September. I didn't get a chance to mention it in the episode, The Prelude. And so that is also an area of the world where I am keeping a very close eye on and intending to clear all of the density so that our sisters over there and really all of the people can feel freedom and happiness and be their authentic selves without oppression and without violence. Very similar thing that I did in Haiti. Haiti had quite a few curses directed towards it. I don't talk a lot about curses because it tends to go into the Shamala territory, but yes, there is a thing such as curses. Yes, it is just someone basically convoluting a ton of negative energy and directing it towards someone else in the astral realm. And Haiti had like 60 of these curses directed towards it. I don't know the whole backstory. I didn't really dig into it in the Akashic records, but I did eradicate every single one of those curses. Cleared the entire land mass, used the water that surrounds it on 3 sides, and used that to purify and cleanse the entire land mass and returned all of that energy. Again, it goes back to the people who live in those areas, and we should see some movement on that in about 2 months. If you are not up to date with what goes on in Haiti, there has been a lot of violence. It has been a scary place for the people who live there. There's been a lot of gang violence, a lot of other kinds of violence. And the truth is that this clearing is meant to give everyone peace, prosperity, love, happiness for their future. And that future starts now. And it's no matter who they are. This is not about retribution. This is not about punishment. Someone kind of said something similar-ish to me like that in my DMs when I was talking about gridwork. And I was like, that's not how this works. This is not a 3D thing. This is not about you like getting karma slapped back in your face because you've been a bad boy or a bad girl. This is the eradication of karma. We're not a karmic planet anymore. That's gone. We haven't been a karmic planet since 2012. So clearing all of that out, I also did some work on Congo, and this was really, really fascinating. So Congo had two big issues. One of them was that 80% of their clinics were out of medicine. And so I worked with a group of archangels to clear all of the pathways and ensure that those clinics have medicine and that the supply of medicine will never end, essentially, for as long as they are needed. This is why I love working with angels. They're like, we don't do small time. We do it like in perpetuity, like forevermore. So we worked on getting the medicine to those clinics, clearing whatever was in the way, getting that out of the way. And then we worked on Ebola and the Ebola virus. This was my first time ever working on any kind of virus or plague on the planet. But basically, I went to the Syrians and I said, this has caused a ton of fear for humanity. It's a really, really serious virus. It's extremely deadly. It's extremely distressing. Is it necessary for it to be active on this planet, or what can we do? And they said, it's not necessary to be active on your planet. It has to do with an old story that was being lived out on the planet, and we can actually seal that virus in the Akashic records, which will allow it to go dormant on your planet. And I said, great, let's do that. So I worked with them, and we literally sealed this genetic code in the Akashic records. We sealed it in this like vessel of light that's impenetrable and unbreakable, but everything made by the one infinite creator has to always exist, even if it just exists in the Akashic records. So that will be eradicated from humanity, and that is hopefully going to happen very soon. And the reason I'm saying that kind of shakily is because the timeline they gave me on that was like 2 weeks. And from what I know about the situation, just from reading some news snippets, is that they hadn't actually had any new cases of the Ebola virus, but they were always, very on guard and very cautious of it coming up and coming back. So I was glad to be able to help in any way that I can. Another really, really big one. Finally, I had the energy, time, attention, space, and awareness to work on the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the free will violations that have happened to the people of those countries. I went so hard on this, you guys. I mean, I went to the maximum. I was just really in a mood that day. And I was like, you know what? The Vatican gave up 40% of its density to me. I'm just going to walk over here to this side of the planet and see what else I can get. So I was feeling myself, and yes, I was able to completely eradicate all of the astral realm constructs going back 1,500 years and really deeply 150 years, which is where the most current conflicts are stemming from. And it's not so much that these dates are going to align with certain things that happened in known human history, or like you're not going to flip open a Russian history book and find like 150 years ago there was like this big thing. Usually these energies start out very small, very tit for tat, and then the energy starts to grow and grow and grow. And so what they told me was you can clear 1,500 years worth just to be very thorough as far as the land goes and to give all that energy back to the people, but also 150 years is where this direct conflict is coming from. And so we were able to clear all of that, and you should see some results here in the 3D reality within about 4 months. Right after that, what's interesting that happened is that I was called to go to Hungary and to also clear the land of Hungary and all of the free will violations that had been committed there and some of the negative constructs that had been built there in the astral realm. Cleared all of that, and you should see results within about 2 months. last but not least, this one is a little bit personal, and normally I wouldn't really share about this, but I think we can all kind of come to a moment of compassion for this person. I really wouldn't say I'm some sort of big super fan, but I did grow up with this person. They're only a few years older than me, and it's been really like heavy on my heart that they have been suffering a lot, and I can see very clearly that a lot of what they were suffering with was things that had to do with some medications they were taking, kind of got them outside of their body, and they've kind of just been tumbling through all of these different realities and parallel lifetimes, and so they're just very confused about who they are right now. And I had this sense that they weren't able to really get back inside of their body and to clock in, to dial into this reality and this timeline and this identity and who they are in this lifetime, because they'd kind of gotten thrown out of their body. So the most that we can do when it's another individual who has free will is we can offer a clearing and a healing to them. And really, the package that I put together for this person was not only clearing their field and their home and their properties, but also creating a clear path for them to get back into their body and to get everything kind of organized again as far as who they are in this lifetime, so that they can live a happy and fulfilling and peaceful life. And I won't pretend like I know that their life is not that way. I just felt like something was off, and that if there was something I could do, the least that I can do is offer it. And it's totally up to their own free will whether or not they want to receive it. What their oversoul told me is that they did receive it, and I think we will see effects in the future. And so that person is the celebrity and pop star known as Britney Spears. And yeah, it's just something heavy on my heart that like videos of her would occasionally come up on my feed and I just feel like I know there's something that I can do, so why not just offer it? And it's not the only, package that I've created for others. I do this all the time for every single homeless person that I see, that I come across all over the world and even in my own hometown. Every single person I see walking on the side of the street, if they're just walking on the side of the street or waiting at a bus stop, I send all of them packets of divine love that have this kind of package to them that will help them in any possible way in their life with whatever they are struggling with, and give them all of these pathways to live a happy, free, clear, prosperous life. And teaching you guys how to create these packages and packets to be able to send to all the people that you know, that you are friends with, the homeless population, drug addicted population, people who are out there and it's like they need help. Sometimes we can't always go and do the heavy lifting in 3D and work at a soup kitchen or donate lots and lots of money and fix all these problems, but most of these problems stem from the astral realm itself. Most of these addiction issues come from astral realm parasitic entities. So working with them in the astral realm is actually something that really, really helps people who are struggling on this planet mentally and emotionally, so that the ripple effect can come into their 3D reality and things start to get better for them all the way around. I don't know about you guys, but for me, I feel a lot of compassion for people who are struggling. I have also really struggled in my life and have been open to receive help from anyone that would offer it. So, we're all in this together. There's no one that's exempt from struggles, from pain, from hardships. There's no one who is miraculously just better than the rest of us. But I think that, as the Arcturians say, the more you give, the more you receive. And so that's something that you can also do through gridwork. So I'll be teaching you more about that here on the podcast, and of course in my upcoming mastery level gridwork course called Lightbringer. And that's going to be in Ascension Academy as well. All right, those are all the updates. I am going to be closing a couple of vortex portals around the United States, specifically ones in Colorado and Texas, that some negative entities have been kind of slipping through the cracks there for a long time. And I finally learned how to close those by myself. The first time I ever closed a portal is I actually worked with a group of Lightworkers and starseeds to close a giant portal that had been opened above Siberia. And I finally figured out how to do it by myself. Or I guess I just feel the confidence and the surety to do it by myself. And again, of course, I'll be teaching you guys all how to do that in that upcoming course. What's been interesting about the side effects of healing from the illness that I had and didn't know that I had it my entire life is that there's so many chemical changes in me that I give so much less fucks about anything. I really do. There is just this freedom that has come through my body and my energy with all of the changes. You just care so much less about what other people think due to all these, like, I just don't have it in me anymore to ruminate over, like, oh, is this going to make this person mad, or is this going to like upset this person? Surprisingly, a lot of those thoughts are due to inflammation in the body that affects the chemicals in your brain, that affects your brain itself physically, and gets you really stuck in those thought loops. But even with all of that change that I have felt, I'm so fucking confident in the quantum field. In the quantum field, in the astral realm, I am just such a fucking badass. Like, I just show up. I'm Commander Lightbringer. Like, it's happening. We're doing it. The light is here. Like, I've got fucking rays of light shooting through my body. Things I never, ever, ever in my life would have thought that I'd be out there doing with complete confidence, just intuitive knowing of how it's going to go and how it should be done, and working with all of these galactic entities and all of these energies and transmuting negative entities. And then of course I like come in the 3D reality, and I do care so much less what other people think, but I still will have like that occasional thought of like, did that person look at me weird? Like, was that too intense? Is my shirt weird? Like, am I wearing my hair kind of funny? I'll have those random thoughts, and I'm like, where does that come from? Because when you're in the astral realm, you are so confident, and you're just like this force of lightning. That's what my guides always tell me. Like, you're like a lightning bolt, a lightning strike. But then in the 3D, I'm like, should I wear that sweater? Does that look weird? Anyways, just to bring it back down to Earth. Okay, where are we in Ascension? Where are we in the Ascent? This is something I've been thinking about since I was sick, and something I've been wanting to teach you guys about. I thought about teaching a short lesson on Instagram about it, and I was like, nope, I'm going to save it for the podcast. It's all going to come together in the right moment at the right time. So I want you to imagine a giant V shape. If you want, you can make it a giant U shape. But just imagine it like, woo, up in front of you. Giant, you can make it gold. You can make it whatever color you want. You can make it a rainbow if you want. Like, giant U shape. And if you're really studious and you like take notes while I'm teaching, then you can draw this in your notebook. And I think this will really help you understand where we have been, what is coming in the future, what you can expect during this lifetime with our ascension. On one of my previous episodes titled Fallen Angels, I talked about the fall. I talked about the fall through dimensions while we are still inside of third density. So we started with self-aware beings in early third density on this planet about 75,000 years ago, and those were the Lemurians. The Lemurians came from Mintanka, connected with the Syrians, and created a hybrid water-based, land-based species. So they were hybrid. We could swim. We had all of the. Obviously, we could swim. We could swim really, really well. That's what I meant to say before I moved to the next thought. Okay, we had thick skin like dolphin skin. We looked humanoid, but we had this thick dolphin skin, so we could swim for hours and hours. We had incredible abilities in the water. We could dive to really deep depths. We had huge lungs. We could hold our breath for a very long time, but we could also breathe outside of the water. We could live on land. So we were this hybrid species. But we existed in the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimension. So very high vibrational. So very much inside of this kind of crystalline light body that also started to have just the beginning corruptions into carbon-based matter. And then the Atlanteans came about 25,000 years ago. They were approved to come to this planet and to begin their experiment. Now, all of these different civilizations are referred to as experiments. If you are channeling or talking to galactics, they're going to use the term experiment. And they don't mean like they're experimenting on you. They mean you are experimenting on you inside of these lifetimes. So they'll usually call what you and I think of as humanity, which is to them is the Gaians. That's how they differentiate. You're the Gaians. We are the Gaians. I'm a Gaian right now. Trying to remember who I am. Okay, I'm a Gaian right now, and you're a Gaian. And in the future, we will be called the Galactic Gaians. But then we had the Atlanteans, and we also had the Lemurians. Those were the two other civilizations that were allowed to live on this planet during third density. So as a Gaian, you may be referred to as the Earth experiment, but you should get more clarity on which part of the experiment are they really talking about. Are they talking about all of third density experimentations, or are they talking about the Gaian experiment on Earth? So the Atlanteans came about 25,000 years ago. They built big, beautiful society. They were on a totally different landmass that doesn't exist anymore. I have a very long, I think it's like 2.5 hour episode where I'm talking to Alicia Bryant about these ancient civilizations, and it's my most downloaded episode ever. It's called Ancient Civilizations, Lemuria and Atlantis. Not that hard to find. But what happens during a fall is that you start to create karma, because that is possible in third density. It is also possible in fourth density, and you can be affected by it into fifth and sixth density. And that's what they would call their polarity, because they've already chosen their path, whether it is to service to others or service to self, sometimes referred to in a very childish level of understanding as the light and the dark. It's really not that, but we'll just go with it because I think that's what a lot of people are already used to. So you can be affected by karma all the way, and you can lose some of your polarity all the way into fifth and sixth density. That's why these beings are very, very cautious about not violating any law, by violating the law of free will with anyone, so that they can continue to keep their polarity and deepening as they are on their journey back to source. So as we go through this U shape, on one side of the U shape, or this V shape, you have the Lemurians at the very top there, the dropping density, and then you have the Atlanteans, and the Atlanteans were 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th dimensional beings. So there was a very wide range that was possible there. And we believe, as galactic historians, those of us who study the Akashic records, we believe that this really wide range of 5 through 9 is what allowed them to drop density, to start activating more and more carbon DNA, and to create more and more karma in such a short amount of time, because 25,000 years is really a very, very short amount of time. And then you have the Galactic Gaians, and we are also an experimental hybrid species. We have our DNA spliced with 22 different star families. Again, no one ever talks about this, but I feel like since it's come up in my last couple of episodes, it's probably because I'm going to do an episode on it exclusively in the very near future. But the main point is that we are experimental hybrid species, humanoid, created with a baseline of the Adamic templates. Once the end of Atlantis came, and we're going to talk about the end of Atlantis more actually in the future of this episode. So once the end of Atlantis came, they had created sufficient levels of karma to be considered a karmic planet to create karma within their own cells, where most of the souls had enough entanglements that they who were here at the end of Atlantis would have to return to the planet to continue the karmic path and see if they could resolve that karma that they started to create. So they started to drop from fifth really down into like fourth dimension. Imagine being a fifth dimensional being of love, and then someone pisses you the fuck off. And then all of a sudden you feel this urge inside of you, and you're like, what was that? I thought I was this being of love and light, but now I feel triggered. But now I feel ego. But now I feel separation. This is what happened at the end of Atlantis. And that little tiny fall between fifth and fourth dimension, not density, just dimension, that little shift between those two is what most people refer to as the fall of Atlantis, which is true, but also most people envision in their mind like these giant cities like crumbling into the water and this big dramatic wave like washing everyone away, and Gaia like rising up out of the galactic core of the earth and being like, I curse you and all your children's children. I just want to, very clearly say that that did not happen. But what did happen is that when this transition was made and there was enough of this fourth dimensional interference and separation, that's when the Galactics, who were really overseeing, this is some of the higher councils, not necessarily like the GFL who's overseeing our Ascension right now. This is before they had really kind of come along and gotten involved. In fact, my guides are saying to me right now that those who are in the GFL who are assisting with the Ascension are the ones who are here in Atlantis that were there for that transition as well. So they were actually incarnated on the planet at that time. And now they are on their ships assisting us. And many of them are also incarnated as well. Those who had really entangled karmic connections are embodied here right now. But that will become more clear as to why they are helping us during this part of the Ascension in just a few minutes. So after all of this separation started to create a spreading out of the colonies of Atlantis, what they might have called like their cities, what you might think of as like provinces of the Atlanteans start to spread out because now they're experiencing more separation. Now they have more karma. They don't want to be near each other. They want to create separation. And once that started to happen, that is when the Galactic saw an opening, an opportunity for this new race to come on to Earth and to be the dominant species, to finish out the story, dropping all the way down to third and fourth dimensional awareness. Now, these big Earth shifts happen over time. They don't just happen overnight. It wasn't just, one night the continent or landmass of Atlantis was there and then it was gone. The Lemurians had already been fading from the planet because the Atlanteans were bringing this lower frequency that was incompatible with the high frequency that the Lemurians were trying to hold on to. So they were already fading out as a civilization. However, I will say this, that Lemurian DNA, because it exists on the planet, it can never be destroyed. Lemurian and Atlantean DNA cannot be destroyed. It exists to this day, typically in people that you see from those parts of the world, but I will get into more about the human races and the DNA and the 22-strand DNA and the diversity project here on Earth in a future episode. But suffice it to say for now, the Lemurians were already fading. Their population was already dwindling. I know because I was there. I was there at the very tail end of Lemuria. There really was not a lot of us. And then you had the Atlanteans already starting to spread out. They were also diminishing because many of them wanted to hold on to their higher frequency. Imagine being able to access ninth dimensional frequency and then your neighbor is in fourth dimensional frequency. So when you hear stories about Atlantis, you will sometimes hear channels or or written in books or wherever someone is channeling this information about Atlantis, telling the story, and they'll say something like, and the Atlanteans started to flee. They started to flee the planet. And that is true. They did start to flee the planet, but they had to leave those incarnations in order to do it. It wasn't necessarily like they were just jumping on a ship and getting out of here, because for those who had dropped into those lower dimensions and had activated too much carbon DNA, they would no longer be able to survive on those ships. So yes, some of them left in ships, those who were in higher frequencies and were able to sustain their incarnation on a ship. Ships have incredibly high amounts of radiation. That's why they are toxic to humans, to us carbon-based humans. But if you are in a crystalline body of light, you have no issue with how much radiation is on there. You're actually fully compatible with high amounts of radiation. So in the early days of the fall, many Atlanteans would flee by ship and others had to fully leave their incarnation. So yes, it's true what people say. The Atlanteans started to flee because they were dropping into the lower dimensions. Eventually, when it was the right time, there was a major reorganization of the land masses on the planet. This is done by the Elohim and the archangelic consciousnesses. There's 4 that are typically associated with each planet that is hosting third density life forms. So the archangelic consciousness and the Elohim will work together to reorganize the land masses, and that information is then trickling down through the councils of ascended masters, into the galactic councils, as far as what is the next plan for this planet, what is going to be the species. And during the time of Atlantis, there had already been a semi-humanoid, what you would think of as like an early human that we had on the planet. And we do keep lots of different bodies. It sounds creepy and weird. We do keep lots of different variety of bodies on habitable planets just in case. I think Ra talks about that more in the Law of One channeled transcripts, but we do kind of keep them like tucked away, and like they might seem a little bit animalistic at first. They might seem a little bit like a caveman or a cave dweller, but we keep them on purpose for experimentation and for the possibility that this could become a body inhabited by a self-aware soul fragment, which is what you and I are. So while Atlanteans are going through their fall, probably for about 5,000 years as they're going through this fall, the Galactics are already regularly coming back and forth from the planet, working on this 22-strand DNA human that would be kind of dulled all the way down to a 2-strand DNA so that they could exist in a 3rd and 4th dimensional awareness. I don't really want to spend a lot of time going into, the rise of the Gaian or, how humans started to spread around this planet. I don't really want to go into that on this episode, or the Anunnaki, the Ankai. What I really want you to be aware of is the dimensional shifts, because now we are going to race into the future. So we had the Lemurians, Atlanteans, and then the humans have been here dominantly for about 10,000 years, but really only for about 8,000. Like, it takes some time to get civilizations going. So for about 8,000 solid years of actually building civilizations, an incredibly short, tiny amount of time. Very, very small. 8,000 years is a blink in the eyes of eternity. And the planet is moving and moving and moving towards its own internal alarm clock that happens to align perfectly with 12-12-12, which is December 12th, 2012. All of the human calendars were channeled and rearranged in such a way to give humanity this numerology and this awareness that there is going to be a big change on your planet, and we're trying to communicate to you through codes and sequences, and numbers are just one of those ways. But the internal clock of Gaia is much more energetic. We started coming into higher levels of awareness in the early 1800s. I talk about these specific dates in the channeled post that I have pinned at the top of my Instagram page. It's called The New Earth Timeline and What to Expect in Your Lifetime. So we started coming into these higher levels of awareness. And of course, all of the galactics know that once it becomes 12-12-12, that is the last possible moment for there to be third density. And this species would start to move into fourth density. But we were distracted. All the galactics and councils and everyone will tell you, like, the issue isn't that, like, you're horrible beings, that, like, you're not good enough, or that you're just, rotten and you're destroying the planet down there, any of the other negative stuff that we tend to say about our own selves. They would never say any of that stuff. What they say is, like, you guys were just distracted. Like, it was such a short amount of time that you barely became what you are, and then you were expected to immediately shift into this, like, galactic Gaian and to ascend and to return home, and, like, your DNA is already changing and shifting. Like, it's just happening so flippin' fast. They completely understand that, and that is why there has been so much galactic support from all of these councils towards this planet. But it's also very tricky, because what you really want as a galactic being is for there to be infiltration, for you to send messengers down there, for you to send people who can channel, for you to send people like myself down here. But once we get down here, it's like it's so dense down in third and fourth dimensions that it's like I've completely forgotten who I am and where I am and why I'm here. And I start interacting and creating all of this karma and getting distracted. I think Ra actually does a really good job of, talking about the wanderers, those of us who are brave enough to go down into density, down into the lower dimensions, and attempt to be of service, attempt to wake up, but how we get lost down here and how there's such a very small chance of waking up, especially when you're really deep in density. Thankfully, because of this internal alarm clock in Gaia, Gaia is also shedding density very, very rapidly as we go through this ascension. Part of her contract with the galactics and with the Elohim and archangels, who kind of act as the mediary between a planetary consciousness and the galactic consciousness, her contract was that she would get to ascend as well. So she would also continue going towards the light. And this has a lot to do with the fact that she is deeply connected to the planet Venus. Venus is a fully ascended planet, but you also have another planet like Mars that chose not to go into ascension and chose to go into this kind of healing phase because of everything, to go dormant into a healing phase because of everything that had happened due to it hosting inhabitants. So now, speeding along all the way to present day, past 2012, past 2020, remember that U shape that I told you to draw in your mind's eye? On one side, the left side, imagine it's in the air in front of you. On the left side, at the very top, you had Lemuria, then you had Atlantis, then at the very bottom, you had humanity, third and fourth dimensional awareness, and then you have the upwards trajectory, the ascent. We are going back through the stages that we came out of. Right now, from 2012 to this moment, we have been in the very tail end. So literally, it's almost like you're going backwards, but you're going forwards. We are going through the very tail end of the fall of Atlantis. Because all of those stories and karmic energies have to be resolved, and they did not get resolved in that 10,000 year interim, we have to resolve them now. That is why we are in an ascension and we still have like shit going down. We still have wars happening on the planet. It seems like we're more polarized than ever. And the Arcturian Council channeled the message that you guys are going to experience for a period of time in your immediate future a deepening of the polarity, but at the same time, you're also going to be experiencing bliss and ecstasy and love to depths that you have never experienced it before. And that's just in like the next couple of years. I think they said it was from 2025 to 2029. That's what we were going to experience. Yes, there's going to be a deepening of polarity. That is all Atlantean karma being resolved. So if we can understand these phases that Atlantis was going through, we can understand what we are rising up through, what these next phases and years are going to look like, but we are moving through them much, much faster than Atlantis did. Whereas they may have been going through their fall for 5,000 years, it's because their species was in resistance to going down into density. Whereas humanity, as you and I experience it, it is not in this much resistance because everyone wants to feel good again. Everyone wants to feel goodness and love and happiness and hope and joy. One of the greatest lessons I've ever learned on this planet came from one of my aunts. She told me that most people on the planet just want the same thing. They just want their family to be safe, to be fed, to have a roof over their head, to experience their own slice of happiness in whatever way that they can. Most people are not out hunting around and searching for conflict and ways to start trouble on this planet and to destroy everything. That's a very, very small percentage of people. Most people on the whole planet are busy living their lives, having those few things: their family safe, themselves safe, a roof over their head, food on the table, and their own little slice of happiness. And if we can understand that, we can appreciate that. We can see that, oh, this tiny 10% of the drama that I see on this planet and that I see amplified in the news and on social media is not what most of the planet is up to every day. Think about it. When was the last time you were in the news? When was the last time you were the problem? When was the last time you were causing all the drama? Probably a really long time ago. Maybe when you were like a rambunctious teenager. But for the most part, you stay in your lane and take care of your business and live your life every single day. So humanity is not in that state of resistance. They are in the desire to feel good, the desire to return to love and happiness and peace and joy and oneness with Source. Whether that is a conscious thought that they have or a subconscious thought, there is a reaching always in all beings back to Source. Always, no matter how much density, no matter how much negativity, no matter how much they have gone in the path of service to self, there is always a part of us that is reaching back to Source. So we are going up through this upward trajectory in this U-shape incredibly fast. Think about 2012. That was the end of third density. It's already almost 2026. It's been years. It's been over a decade since we were in third density. We are moving very, very fast through the tail end of Atlantean Karma. And then we are going to move into Atlantean Golden Age. I believe that this is what we will be stepping into in 2030. And what my guides alluded to how we would experience life 2030, 2035, 2042. They said you guys are going to be living in what you feel is a paradise, especially for those of us who were born before 2012 and actually experienced third density. It's almost kind of crazy and weird to think about the fact that in this lifetime, you've lived in two different densities. Like you did that. You lived in third density and now you live in fourth density. So we have all of this momentum when you're going through an ascension, when you are on that upwards rising trajectory. When you're in the fall, there's so much resistance to going down there that it actually happens much, much slower. And on this planet, it was especially slow. I have seen it happen way faster on other planets, but on this planet, very, very slow. Now I think we're going to have this absolutely wonderful I mean, catastrophic in the best sense, like a rocket taking off from Earth, going up through this ascension. It's happening very, very quickly. So another way to think about it, if, living through Atlantean karma gives you anxiety, you've already lived through most of it. You've already lived through most, like you're already 12 years into fourth density. You've already lived through most of their trauma. And I think we can all agree there were a lot of wars that have happened throughout our lifetime. Have been a lot of different conflicts, and even right now, just in the past few years, seeing these conflicts rise up on certain parts of the planet can give you a lot of anxiety and this sense of like, oh no, we're doomed. Like everything is going to fall apart. There's going to be this crazy war and like everything is going to get destroyed. Well, I have some information for you. Because we are rising back up through the story of Atlantean karma and how it came about, and those stories are being resolved, they actually never had a giant full-out war that destroyed all of them. That never happened in Atlantean history, which means that is not what we are going to live through. They did have smaller skirmishes, separation, and kind of this energy of feuding governments. And I think we can all agree that right now, more than ever, there is this energy of feuding governments. They are living out Atlantean karma. Most of these people who are working in government right now and who are in the news and these spotlights and are in the center of all of that drama, they are most likely Atlanteans who had a ton of karma, and now they have to come back and relive it in their attempt to resolve it. Now, my hope for them is that they resolve it. My hope for everyone on this planet is that they have their moment of awakening and awareness the same way that I did, because I was a little shit for 27 years. I hope that they have that moment of awakening and awareness and the opportunity to resolve so much of their karma. I am so grateful to have awoken and been able to clear out all of the karma that I created just in this single lifetime, but also across all of my past Earth lifetimes, so that if I want to leave this planet and go hang out on a ship or go back to Arcturus or go back to the Lightbringer and take a break from being here, then I can actually do that because I won't have any karmic ties to take care of. I hope for that level of freedom for all beings on this planet. I hope for all beings who have hurt others, who have violated the law of free will continuously throughout their incarnation in ways that really piss me off in the astral realm. But still, my overall hope is that they get the opportunity to resolve it, that they resolve their shit themselves. And my sense from reading all of these chapters in the Akashic records is that many of them will. Many of them will. You might not know it. We might not see it in 3D. We might not know what's going on in someone's soul, in someone's heart, in someone's mind on the other side of the planet, or when they're on their deathbed. We might not know, but that's the only space that they need to resolve karma. It's through awareness. It's not through physical 3D actions. So because we are moving so quickly through Atlantean karma, I do believe that much of it, especially with the amount of astral realm work, which is fourth dimensional work, being done, not just by myself, but I'm happy to be a part of it, but by all different light workers on this planet, regardless if you're aware of what you're doing. Maybe you're working in your dreams in the astral realm. Maybe you are, your galactic self is working very hard on it. There are so many entities working very, very hard to bring all of this third and fourth dimensional energy to 0 point so that it can act as the fuel for the fifth dimension, which is going to be just the beginnings of the new Earth. Remember, we're rising up through the dimensions in our awareness, which means eventually Earth will go all the way back up through the dimensions. But the fifth dimension is just the next stop on the journey. It's just the next place where we're going. And I think it's good and fine to have a target, to know like, hey, this is the next place that we're going. We don't have to get caught up on like, oh my God, when are we going to be 12th dimensional again? Like, I can only live on this planet if I'm 12th dimensional. And if I'm not, I'm leaving. I mean, we don't Yeah, we don't have to get caught up. Just know where the next pit stop is. The next pit stop is fifth dimension, and then humanity will keep going. You and I will probably be long gone from these incarnations. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe you're going to live here for like a really long time. Maybe when you and I leave, maybe we'll be in like 70s, 80s, 90s, and we will have accelerated so fast that we live in like a fifth, sixth, and seventh dimensional reality. That is possible. It's not off the table, but it's also not as written in the records as this information is. This information is very clear. You guys are going through what was the tail end of Atlantean Karma, which means you're going to rise up into what came next for them, which is Atlantean Golden Age. And so what you can start to expect in an Atlantean Golden Age is not this like Garden of Eden, like we're all like eating fruit off of a tree, like wearing scraps of cloth or just nude and dancing under the moonlight. And it's not quite like everyone has returned to nature and like all of the cities are like in ruins or something. Actually, we're going to go through a period of time where we are incredibly technologically advanced. I believe we already have our foot in the door on that. If you look in history and you're like, wow, you guys were riding horses for thousands of years, and then all of a sudden you're like in space in a ship, or you're like driving the Maserati down the road. So different from who we were 100 years ago. So we're already standing in the threshold of being a very advanced technological society. I believe that we will continue with that probably throughout your and I's lifetime. Technology will become very big, but because we will have a reconnection to our galactic families, there's going to be a level of spiritual awareness, or if you want to use the term consciousness, that's fine too. There's going to be a level of consciousness that is so undeniable about the spiritual energetic nature of who we are. The veil will be so thin, and so much of this information will seem like your nature, because it is your nature, that it's not going to be like the fifth element. It's not going to be like Blade Runner, where it's like they're so advanced technologically, but everyone's just depraved, and like that possibility for a planet like that is gone. That would have had to have happened before 2012. In fact, I believe that, movies and stories like Blade Runner were inspired by Orion 6, because that's actually what happened there. We were able, under third density, to advance very significantly with technology, but we were also a single dominant species for all of third density. So we had 75,000 years as opposed to 10,000 years. And Orion 6 very much was very advanced technology, ability to travel to other planets easily, but also very spiritually and consciously unaware. The opportunity to tell that kind of story on Earth is gone. We are going to be so deep into fourth density that there is going to be this love, light, intelligence component. You and I are already here as the beginning of that. You and I are that when we sit down and use technology, but we're using it to communicate and translate love, light, intelligence, and energy throughout this planet. That we're already doing that. But you're going to see it on a global level. That's going to unfold through the rest of our lifetime. I do have another episode coming up that I'm going to talk about AI. Everything I channeled about AI, I did this entire session with my guides, and they gave me a lot of information about what the future of AI is on this planet, what they have already seen in the timelines. And it's fascinating, and it's not scary at all. So I think a lot of this information that's coming through, and this desire for the galactics to communicate to us and let us know, hey, yes, you're going through the tail end of Atlantean Karma when things were very bad for them. And you also see your civilization advancing technologically. And you also see this, this Earth ascension happening at the same time. And a lot of you feel very confused about that. Like, how can it be that good things are going to come out of this? But it's because you're on the upwards trajectory. You're flying by everything that happened in the past on your way back home. So our ascent out of third density and out of third and fourth dimensional awareness into fourth density and into fifth plus, I'll just say fifth plus, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, like however high you can go, baby, like go there, into fifth dimensional awareness, is that we have to pass through the tail end of Atlantis, Atlantean Karma. Most of that will get resolved on this planet. Any interpersonal knots of karma that souls are like, I'm not willing to let this go, that is just going to be taken to be played out on another planet, which is totally fine. Like, you've got all of eternity. You're not in a rush to go anywhere. I know a lot of us feel this rush to be home, to be in a state of love and bliss and peace and prosperity at all times, and to not be in density at all. I totally understand that. I feel that way every day. But the reason that we feel that way here is because of the density actually creates pressure. So you actually feel like you're inside of a pressure cooker while you're here. And that pressure cooker served the purpose of aging the body. Literally, the pressure cooker is carbon DNA, and it would age the body so that you would age out of this place, so that you wouldn't stay here for a really long time, because that would be too much dimensional stress to be under, to be in a state of perceived separation from source for hundreds of years would be absolute agony. That's why humans really only live a very short amount of time. And even, those old stories that people tell, especially for those of us who grew up in church, oh, once upon a time we used to live like 900 years. They're talking about Atlanteans. Those were Atlanteans that used to do that. That was not this exact coding of DNA that you and I were born into. But what you and I are also doing in this ascension is we are transforming, we are completing a metamorphosis of the DNA from carbon to crystalline. So the body that you and I leave behind, my belief and assumption is that perhaps some will have achieved a full light body. Perhaps some. But most, when we leave this specific incarnation, having been born in a past density, that we will only have completed transforming part of it, a portion of it, a percentage. That's what I'm looking for. We will only have completed a percentage of it inside of our own body. But the percentage that you are completing before your DNA or lineage carries on to the next generation. So those of you who are having children after 2012, their bodies actually have higher amounts of activated crystalline DNA. I do believe that human scientists are catching on to this either already or very, very soon. There are a lot of light workers and channels and those who are operating from higher dimensional awareness who are connected with scientists, like all of the work that Dr. Joe does, but I know that there's a lot of others who do similar work. And there have been whispers in the DNA community that there is something changing in human DNA. They don't have the awareness or understanding or vocabulary for it yet, but they will. In fact, my guides are saying right now that yes, human scientists at your institutions like Harvard and Oxford are aware that there are genetic mutations happening right now, and it is confounding them. So that's a direct message from the 9D Arcturian Council. So it's going to become mainstream that there is something happening in human DNA. Of course, it would be so lovely if they would study those of us who actively work on activating crystalline DNA, but human scientists don't do their studies that way. They do their studies from general population or from certain groups of population. They don't, cherry pick out specific humans to do these tests on. Will they in the future? I certainly hope so. But again, it's not so much about us being validated through human science. It's more so, for me at least, my curiosity about DNA is, when are you going to find this genetic mutations that are starting to happen, this change in DNA that's starting to happen in someone who has no fucking idea what ascension is, in just your average person walking down the street, no clue about what any of that is. That to me is the moment that's going to be really, really special. So we are going to be activating this DNA throughout the rest of our lifetime. And many of these illnesses, we'll just touch on illness for just a second here before I get back to the stages that Atlantis went through. I have not met a single Lightworker that didn't have at some point in their life some crazy, weird, unknown illness, or a near-death experience, or a wild supernatural experience. And trust me, if you are like, well, I haven't had mine yet, trust me, it's coming. It's coming. It is coming. In fact, my own illness that I am healing right now inside of my body, I was told by the Galactics and by the Syrian DNA architects who work on our DNA here and are basically in charge of like DNA maintenance on Earth. I was told by them, like, you are a prelude. We're studying everything that's happening to you, because what happened to you is actually going to become an epidemic on your planet. It's going to happen to a lot of people, and it is part of the transition into the light body. And I will explain when I talk about the illness in the future how that could possibly be, and it will make so much sense to you. It makes a lot of sense to me. Not that it made it any less painful to go through, but now I see and understand, like, oh, this is how you alchemize an entire population's DNA. Like, this is what has to happen. We perceive it to be this illness and then this common illness. And then it's like, well, everyone has this. If there's something out there that a lot of people have suddenly started to have as an illness, that is DNA work being done. So I want to close with these stages of Atlantis and just tap a little bit into Lemuria and the Galactic Gardeners, who I have foreseen in about 900 plus years on this planet, between 900 and 1100 years into our future, as the dominant beings who are left on this planet. And I call them the Galactic Gardeners. It's kind of a cute term that I plucked out of the Akashic Records. But they will be the final caretakers left on this planet, and they will be 12th dimensional beings. So as we transition out of Atlantean Karma, things will start to stabilize. We will start to get back into the peaceful time in Atlantis. We will go into Atlantean Golden Age, which I believe many humans will call, human Golden Age, Gaian Golden Age. Who knows what we're going to call ourselves, but we'll certainly try to take credit for it. But we will go into our own golden age. Obviously, things are not going to be exactly how they were in Atlantis. The point is not to become Atlantean once again. It's to recognize the energetic tones that we are going through as we rise up in this ascent. So we will go into a golden age. I believe that it will last for probably, my guides are giving me a very big range, 50 to 300 years, depending on how quickly we want to move through that. Then we will go into a period of time where we will not be so carbon-based. That point in the future, 50, and they're talking 50 from 2030. So that's 2080. I don't know how many of you guys were planning on living that long, but I wasn't. I was born in 91. I'd rather leave and get a new body and come back. So we as a collective might choose to stay in that golden age, until 2080, or all the way beyond that, about 300 more years beyond that. But their estimated projection is that somewhere in there, we will tire. of this advanced technology society, and we'll start to let that go. We will start to evolve out of that. That's when we start to reach the tail end of the Atlantean story. And I believe that we will have, just as the Atlanteans had the building up of their society, I believe we will have the building down of this golden age technologically advanced society in the future. We will build that all down, and I believe that we will return to Lemurian consciousness. At this point, we will be able to fully access all the way through 12th dimension. We will be somewhere in the spectrum of 5th through 9th, and then around the ending of that golden age and the ending of that building down, we will be starting to transition more in through 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional awareness. And that will be when we have returned in the ascent back to Lemurian level consciousness. I believe that we will shapeshift and change this light body to be more connected to the nature on this planet. I don't think that it will look exactly how it did in Lemuria. I believe that that story is over and concluded, and we will create a new story, but the tone of the story is going to be very similar as we go through Lemurian consciousness, which is emerging and reconnecting to nature and the elements. I know many of you long for that, and maybe you end up leaving this incarnation, you come back at that point in consciousness. Maybe that's why you perceive that this is where humanity should be in the coming years. But we do have to, as we release time, go back through the stories, go back through the tonality of the stories. So we will go into that Lemurian level consciousness. But unlike the Lemurians, who were in their society for almost 75,000 years, I believe that we will evolve through their consciousness much faster as we become the Galactic Gaian, and then eventually those who have chosen to stay on the planet, who feel extremely connected to nature, the animals, the codes that we have here in all of their different dimensional forms, and who feel a really deep connection to Gaia herself, they will stay on this planet. They will be the ones left. I believe it will be a very small population, perhaps even less than 1 million across the entire planet. And they will be known as the Galactic Gardeners. They are the caretakers of these garden planets. And this is what they love. This is what their soul loves. They would be considered extraterrestrial. They would have the ability to get on a ship and go off planet for a time, to go and check out other planets and see, what codes from Gaia would be appropriate to seed and to start this new planet that's going into first and second density. So they have those abilities, but they really love being here. They love walking on Gaia. They love connecting with Gaia. They are so connected to all of the elements. And remember, this is not a carbon-based human. This is a being of light in a crystalline light body that is in 10th, 11th, and 12th. And then at their final stage of the story on this planet, 12th dimensional awareness, they would appear to your eyes as an angelic being of light. But really, they're just the gardeners. The very important, very loved, very beautiful galactic gardeners. I've met a few souls that have that written in their Akashic records, that's what they want in their future. And it's a beautiful future. So I think the emphasis that I really want to come out of this episode is that you and I, what we are going to expect in our lifetime is, yes, we're going to have a few more years of deepening polarity. All of these wars have to come to conclusion. All of these dictatorships and these violations of the law of free will have to come to conclusion. People have to actually be set free on this planet fully and then take accountability and responsibility for their own sovereignty. So there is some work ahead of us, but we are going to live in a golden age on this planet. And it is not a golden age that some government or Jesus figure, that someone standing on a podium is going to bring about. That I could not emphasize that enough. This is not a golden age that a single entity is going to bring about. It is not time for you to get on your knees and start worshiping some political figure or some pop culture figure. It is time for you to stand up and say, I'm the one. I am the one. I am the new Earth architect. I have things to offer to this planet and to this golden age. This is a golden age that I will create through my awareness and my energy. These transitions that happen in societies and civilizations, and I've seen this across many different planets, they don't start in the external. They don't start in a figurehead. They always start in the quiet moments of collective consciousness, in a quiet group, in a small meeting, in a small relationship. They start in those quiet energies and then they grow. We don't have to fear the future because we are the future. And I can tell you from my experience, just in this community, which is a microcosm of our planet, just in this community, you guys show so much love, so much support, so much connection. That's the world I want to live in. And you're here, and you're the new Earth. And it's created from you. And I couldn't imagine a better group of souls to be here with, mostly because you guys are all the souls that I've ever met across all of my lifetimes, but that's neither here nor there. It truly is this remarkable experience that we are going to have. And I really want you to know about it. I really want you to know the goodness that is coming. I really want you to know that those moments of love and peace and joy and bliss and ecstasy that you feel in between the moments of the chaos and the polarity and the separation and all of that, those moments are going to become bigger and brighter, longer, deeper. And we are going to live in a reality that we created through our frequency, through our love, through our connection to Source. No one is going to create it for you. All of this political drama, all of these governments, all of that stuff, it's going to fade away. It's not really our business to be like how and when and where and like, get on with your karmic debt and figure it out. Who cares? Because we're here. Who cares? Because we are here. We are here. We are the new Earth architects. We have this ability to master energy, to create worlds. And it starts with our own world first. And that will grow. And we will look back, and the mind will have perfect 2020 vision in hindsight and say, oh, I get it now. I see. We were creating a new Earth. Beautiful beings of divine light, I hope if you enjoyed this episode that you will share it with a friend. And you already know that I will see you on the next one.